number 28. Magana Timirandasha Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshan Milatamyena Tasmai Shikaravanamaha. Kamalakanta Vishvasa Namacharya Kinkara Acharya Vyavahara Sabha Tanhara Gochara Kamalakanta Vishvasa Namacharya Kinkara Acharya Vyavahara Sabha Tanhara Gochara Kamalakanta Vishvasa Namacharya Kinkara Acharya Vyavahara Sabha Tanhara Gochara Kamalakanta Vishvasa of the name Kamalakanta Vishvasa. Nama, name. Acharya Kinkara, servant of Advaita Acharya. Acharya Vyavahar, the dealings of Advaita Acharya. Sabha, all. Tanhara, his. Gochara, within the knowledge. Translation. Advaita Acharya's very confidential servant, named Kamalakanta Vishvasa, knew all the dealings of Advaita Acharya. Please repeat. Advaita Acharya's very confidential servant, named Kamalakanta Vishvasa, knew all the dealings of Advaita Acharya. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The name Kamalakanda, mentioned in the Adi-lila 10:149, and the name Kamalakanta, mentioned in the Madhya-lila 10:94, both refer to the same man. Kamalakanta, a very confidential servant of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, born in a Brahmin family, engaged in the service of Sri Advaita Acharya as his secretary. When Paramananda Puri went from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri, he took Kamalakanta Vishvas with him, and they both went to see Lord Chaitanya at Jagannath Puri. It is mentioned in the Madhya-lila 10:94 that one of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, a Brahmana, Kamalakanta, went with Paramananda Puri to Jagannath Puri. So Kamalakanta or Kamalakanda, quite often we find in our scriptures that the personalities have several names. Often they're names pertaining to their activities or for those things that they're famous for. So it's not surprising here. Kamalakanta, Kamalakanda, not much difference, but it's referring to the same person who was born in a Brahmin family. Now, in a morning walk with Prabhupada in 1975, I was not on that walk, and I don't know in which part of the world it was, but in 75, in a morning walk, Prabhupada talked about servitors and about service. And he said, there are two types of servants. You have your regular servant, who's called an official servant, and you have the confidential servant. And there are some differences, of course. That's why they have different names. The regular servant will do most of the menial tasks, taking care of the master, looking after so many things pertaining to the body, meals maybe, dressing, things like that. But the confidential servant is very special. Very special confidential servant. And he has a certain quality, or she has a certain quality, high quality. That's why Kamalakanta is coming from a Brahmin family, because the Brahmins have the qualities Samo, Dhammas, Tapashotam, Shanti, Ejavam, Evacha, Jnanam, Vijnanam, Astikam, Brahmakavas, Bhavajam. These qualities are cleanliness, wisdom, peaceful, they're very peaceful, self-controlled, that's one to remember, self-controlled, austere, they're very pure, they're tolerant, they're honest, that's another one to keep thinking about, honesty, and they're very austere. And this is the type of personality who makes an ideal, confidential, or personal servant. And they took it very seriously. That was in those days. They were highly placed, and they did everything for the satisfaction of the master, not selfishly. Everything had to be for the satisfaction of the personality that they were serving. And to that person, to that wonderful servant, everything was disclosed. The master had no qualms at all about disclosing the innermost feelings, personal things. All was spoken to this wonderful confidential servant. However, that is not the case today. We can think of the royal families around the world. We can think of the British royal family, where they engage so many servants. If it's a confidential service in the bedchamber, something very confidential, they will swear an oath of confidentiality, secrecy. What I see in here, in this bedchamber, what I see around me, that will not be spoken to anyone. However, because the nature of Kali Yuga and these Brahminical qualities of honesty and what was the other one? I said, remember? Honesty and wisdom and self-control. When the press come near them, or someone's writing a book about the royal family, then they will entice the servitor with financial gain. So if you just give me this bit of information, what was it like with Diana? What was her mood? What happened? If you tell me this, then I can give you some good remuneration. Now in Kali Yuga, where people don't have very good qualities, in the Cyan Age of Kali, the qualities are very low, that's a great enticement. And they think, well, if I do that, I'll probably be set up for life to have so much wealth, because wealth will bring me satisfaction of the senses and the mind. Because that's what life is all about. Every individual is trying to satisfy their senses and their mind, including the mind, which is subtle sense, like that. So that's why we have scandalous books and scandalous newspaper headings, and everyone is very, very keen to participate in that, to read it, to discuss it. Oh, did you see that show on the television last night where that former servant revealed everything about Prince Charles or King Charles? People want that because they are addicted to, like crows Prabhupada explains, crows, they go to where all the rubbish is and where the stool is. They're attracted to that place. But swans are different. Swan-like men, more elegant, with better qualities. They have no interest in this type of these activities that are going on. So that's the difference between the servants. We don't have confidential servants. Anyone can be lured by monetary exchange to reveal all the secrets. It happened from country to country. There would be treasonous people, famous people who gave secrets to other countries, sold out their own country for money. Then they would have to go and live in that country or run away unless they were caught and they were punished. So it's very unfortunate that we don't have many people with these good qualities. But this is what we're training to have. In our institution, we're actually training to develop the best qualities. Now, we can easily understand that in the material world, everyone wants to be master. They have that desire because, well, it's prestige, isn't it? And that's one of the desires of the living entity, prestige and honor. And it's very hard to find people who can feel comfortable being a servant. They'll take a job of servitude because that's what they have to do, and they'll get some remuneration. But if you ask someone, servant or master, they will always say, oh, I'd like to be the master. That feels better, and I have control. But when we think of our spiritual masters, and in particular, we'll just focus on Srila Prabhupada, he's a master, an absolute master. He's the master at whose feet all other masters sit. And what is his mood? Is he relishing being a master? He does not consider himself a master. He considers himself a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and a servant of the devotees. He has so much love for the Lord that he just wants to serve him, and he's satisfied in that servitude. He would have it no other way. To serve God with unalloyed devotion. What does unalloyed mean? It means there is no, without a desire for personal benefit. I don't care if I get benefits or not. I just want to serve. I just want to serve. So thinking about service, we're all serving. Whatever we're doing, are we making garlands? Are we chanting? Are we sweeping the floor? Are we cooking? We're all doing service. Now here is a very interesting point, and some of you may already understand this well, but it's a very interesting point which I find very helpful to understand. If I were to say to you, service to the Lord can be either in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, what would you say? Would you believe that, or say, no, you would believe that? Yeah. That's great, because our service is generally according to the different modes of nature. We're tainted by that. And it's okay. That's okay. We're only just starting out. We're very new. We're very neophyte. We make mistakes. Hopefully our heart is in the right place. We want to make good. We want to continue with our devotion and become, hopefully one day, a wonderful pure servitor of the Lord. Now let's take a look at service in the mode of ignorance. Now someone may be doing service in the mode of ignorance, But it's good they're doing the service. I don't want you to think, oh, because it's in service in the lower modes, we shouldn't do it. Yes, we should, because we'll graduate from that, hopefully. Now, an example of service in the mode of ignorance, for example, I might go outside and say, Prabhu, I really need you to sweep this floor. I know you're tired. I know you were up till 2 o'clock this morning after the festival. You really need to get in here and sweep this floor. And you might respond, oh no, can't you get somebody else? I did so much service yesterday. Oh, give me the broom, I'll do it. And then one comes in with an attitude like that. Think about it. You can't blame it. We're not blaming that devotee. You're tired, but it is service, but it's tainted a little bit with the mode of ignorance because it's very unwilling due to his circumstances. Now, service in the mode of passion is a good one, because service in the mode of passion is, look at me. I was on the altar this morning. Did you see me? I actually had a very good friend years ago who was with this temple. And I very much respected and admired her truthfulness. And she said to me, you know something? She said, I do the arti in the afternoon, the fruit offering. And what I don't like about myself, she said, is I'm looking around to see if anyone's there observing me, and then I'm affected by that. And then I'm trying to do it very nicely, all the while aware that I'm being observed, like that. So, of course, that's okay also. That's okay. It's a starting point. But that is a desire for admiration. It's a desire for profit. And, of course, the service in the mode of goodness is dutiful. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. I'm his servant, part and parcel. And it is to my benefit to serve him. And you know, Prabhupada gives the example of feeding the stomach, isn't it? The parts and parcels, you know, to feed the stomach, you generally need to have your hands to put food in the mouth so you can feed the stomach. So in the same way, we can understand that by serving the Supreme Lord, then we are greatly benefited. However, that is a dutiful thing, and it's very wonderful, and we're striving to reach the mode of goodness. That's what we're striving for. We want to do everything in the mode of goodness, not unwillingly or reluctantly, but with a good heart, understanding it is to our eternal benefit, and also not because we want to be admired. And then there's another mode which is higher than that. Ignorance, passion, goodness is pure goodness. Suddha sattva, pure goodness. And in pure goodness, the practitioner of devotional service just wants to really please the Lord. That's what they want. Not please themselves by being admired, but to please the Lord. What can I do to please the Lord? That is what we're aspiring for ultimately, so that our service can be perfected. Now, we need to be reminded. We have classes every day, we have discussions, we read the books. Many of the things we know, many of the things we've heard before, but we do need to be reminded. Everybody needs to be reminded. I need to be reminded, especially these days. Definitely need to be reminded. And so we can pick ourselves up and say, yes, for a moment I forgot, now we're on the royal path again. And we want to get it right this lifetime. So what the Lord is really appreciating is selfless love. And that's what the servant, the confidential servant, has for the master: selfless love. Always to be relied upon, true to his word, confidential, and offering unalloyed devotion. You know, Srila Prabhupada's mood was so humble. We actually, unbelievably humble. Even though he's like a lion. When Prabhupada would sit on the Vyasasana, or if you hear any of his classes, he preached like a lion. He had all the answers. He had all the references, all the knowledge, and he preached like a lion. And if anyone was misbehaving or being silly, then he would chastise them very, very heavily. But he had a very, very gentle and a very quiet nature, very, very humble. And one of the ways in which we observed that personally was in Melbourne in 1975, when Prabhupada, on his Vyasasana, gave a most wonderful talk, a wonderful discussion, like a lion. And then, when he got off the Vyasasana, he walked towards the exit door, and the senior men, sannyasis, came to him, and he was just like a child in their hands. And they took him by the hand like this. Come, Prabhupada. And he looked around and he said, oh. And he was looking up at them because he's short. So he's looking up, oh, we're going over here now? Yes, Prabhupada, come. And every inch of the way he was completely dependent on them. For every step he took, they were holding his arms. This way, Prabhupada. Oh, be careful there, Prabhupada. Looking up at them. It was a wonderful display of humility that I ever saw. Even though he'd been preaching like a lion on the Vyasasana. So he's never got overtaken with prestige, even though so many people adored him and worshipped him. He still kept that wonderful humility. Here's a great story. Here's a great story about Prabhupada. You know, I think everyone might know that he used to be a chemist. Does everyone know that? He was in the business of tonics and medicines, and he would travel quite a lot. And so he was very, very expert in that business. And he was very successful in that business. He had an associate called Obi Kapoor. And Obi Kapoor was studying as a student. And he approached Srila Prabhupada and he said, please can you give me some tonic to help me with my studies? Which Prabhupada did. He made up a tonic of different medicines. And it was very successful. He came back. And it was very, very successful. He said, that was wonderful. He said, can you please give me the tonic that you yourself use? So Prabhupada said, what tonic is that I myself use? And so he said, Obi Kapoor said, that one that makes you such an advanced Vaishnava. He said, I'm still trying to find one. Prabhupada said, I'm still trying to find one. He said, but I can tell you one thing. One thing I do know, Trinadapi Sunichana, Tororapi Sunishnana, which is humility. A humble state of mind, ready to do service to others. So that is our great aspiration. And thinking, I'm dust at the lotus feet of my spiritual master. I'm a servant of Guru. I'm a servant of Krishna. And those, it's said, and I'm under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of that position. Now in the Canto 1, there's a statement there which is very encouraging, I thought. And it says that those who are under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead have nothing to fear from this horrible age. They use that word, Canto 1. Horrible age. They've got nothing to fear. One who's aspiring, one who's under the protection, one who's trying their best to glorify the Lord and to serve the Lord. Hopefully serve the Lord in the higher modes. That is our aspiration. Guru is a very confidential servant of the Lord, and explains that, and this is very, very a very good thing to meditate on, I think, is that our movement and our path that we're following, which is Bhakti Yoga, is the very, very confidential part of understanding God. So I'll explain that a little bit. There are many religions around the world, many faiths of serving God. The particular one that we've been attracted to is Bhakti Yoga. And we are very, very favored. There is no doubt about it. We're very, very favored to be in such a confidential movement. And here is why. This is the path of devotion by which Krishna can be purchased. Krishna can be purchased by this path that we're following. And Prabhupada says in no other religion, no other philosophy can Krishna be purchased as he can. So what does that mean? Well, we get to know Krishna's names, his place of birth, his relatives, his pastimes, his lovers. We get to know every personal aspect of God. Who else has that? What other faith has that? I think sometimes we don't realize how we're blessed. Sometimes I'm amazed when I meditate on it and think, oh, my Krishna, that's amazing. We know all these things. And then you have examples like, because the Lord, he does not want to be on a big throne all the time or kingly. He wants to pull the tails of the calves, and he wants to steal, and he wants to fool around and laugh and be happy. He wants to do all those things. If you tell this to most people, they would send for the van. Take them away, this crazy person speaking such nonsense here. But that's a fact, and we've been able to absorb that to some degree and understand that. And when you think of Mother Yasoda, especially we've just had Kartik celebration, where she runs after him with greater speed. Can you imagine being able to catch hold of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? She runs after him with greater speed and ties him up and says, you nonsense, I'll tie you up because you're such a mischievous child. And this is, I think, a really good point to consider. It makes you feel quite grateful to be admitted into the society of devotees and to be able to practice. And we take it very seriously. We want to take it seriously. And it's interesting, in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that's attaining the Supreme, and I think it's verse number 8, Krishna says, always think of me in the form of Krishna. to attain the Supreme. Always think of me in the form of Krishna and carry out your duties unto me. Carry out your duties unto me with your mind fixed on me. You will attain me without doubt. That's what we want. That's our aspiration. That's what we're aiming for. So lucky, so lucky. Think of me in the form of Krishna. So I was thinking about our little bhakti creepers. You know, in the Caitanya Caritamrita also there is an understanding about chanting and watering the little bija, or the seed of devotion, which is also very helpful to read that. So every time we chant, we're actually sowing the seed of devotion. And the more we chant, because chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the be-all and end-all, there is nothing higher. And I've read that a couple of times this week. So I can't give you the references because I've forgotten. But it is the highest thing you can do. Chant Hare Krishna. Chant in your mind. Chant out loud. Chant softly. Chant whatever you're doing. Chant your rounds. Chant with devotees. Chant when you're alone. Chant, chant, chant. It is it's the essence of all success in devotional life. But along with the chanting, there is also, weeds are also, because it's like planting your little bhakti lata bead, your little seed of devotion, and watering it. And you know what happens when you water a seed? Something else comes up. Weeds. Weeds come up. Can't help it. It's always really disappointing, isn't it? I don't plant anything anymore. The weeds come up and it's like, the weeds. Well, that happens in our situation as well. When we're chanting, we get the little weeds that are coming up, and they have to be very carefully tended, and they have to be recognized, and they have to be dealt with. And I think that's also, looking at the time, I think that's a great subject for another class. A lot of wonderful, helpful information there about chanting and watering the seeds. So we might leave that for another time. And I can just go on to say that, Krishna doesn't need anything from us. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything's coming from him. He has everything. But he does become purchased by us according to our devotion. And I can't remember which part of the Shastras this came from, but there are 3 actually recommendations for those of us who are very keen, because enthusiasm is very necessary. We want super enthusiasm for this, constantly. That means we have to think about that, and we have to try and associate with very enthusiastic people as well, and we have to follow our vows very carefully, no matter whether we feel like it or not. Think about that. It's not like I don't feel like it. We do what we vowed to do. And the first thing is to gain the attention, the special attention of the Lord, is to very feelingly offer prayers. So with great feeling. So not that we offer prayers. Do you think any of us, maybe when we're chanting prayers and singing prayers and saying prayers, maybe we're just saying the words? Anyone do that? I do. And then I, say, what's this? Yeah, that's good if you can realize that. We're saying today the peace and the peace and we can just like parrot like these prayers, or we can make an effort to really imbibe them for our purification. Very feelingly offer prayers. The second one is humbly submitting oneself. If we are asked to do something and we don't have a very good excuse not to do it, submit. Try it. Can you? Yes. Volunteer? Yes. As much as possible. Being sensible and within reason. Humbly submitting myself. There is a need here. There's some service to be done. I humbly submit myself. And the third one is to desire some perfectional stage. Because we can become perfect, and we will become perfect if we follow this path. And the perfectional stage is our natural stage. Everybody's in a state of disarray. Everyone's crazy. Everyone's unhappy. More and more I see that. It's just horrible, this horrible age that we're living in, which is called horrible in Canto 1 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we want to get back to normality, because it is, to be a servant of Krishna is normal. It's not abnormal, it's normal. That's our constitutional position, servant of Krishna. And to make headway, to become more and more purified, to learn more and more about devotion, the path of devotion, what I need to do, how I need to act in order to get, that should be desiring a perfectional stage. What do you think? Would you like to desire a perfectional stage? Yeah? Good. I want to be a perfectional stage. I want that stage which will bring me back to sanity, complete sanity, because we're all insane to different degrees. We're all insane because why? We think we're the body. That's insanity. We're not the body. So let's think about that, very feelingly offering prayers, so that when we're praying, we're together, alone, we're thinking about it, submitting oneself, and always desiring some perfectional stage so that we can be under the protection fully of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we can cope with this very, very horrible age. It does take patience. It does take perseverance. But what you put in is what you get out. It's the same with anything, isn't it? What you put in is what you get out. So, service, we are servants. We want to be servants. We're happy being servants. And we want to perfect that servitude, our serving attitude. So actually, I think maybe now it's 25 past, we might leave it there. And if anyone has any comments and any to share anything with us, or then we can take 5 minutes for that now.
Hare Krishna, really nice class. So enthusiastic.
Not too heavy?
No,
I've always got to oh, you're such a heavy dude. I've always got to oh, was that true? Was that too heavy? It wasn't too heavy?
No.
Good.
I really like one of the final comment, what you put in is what you get out. I think sometimes we can get complacent in spiritual life and lose that somewhere. I always look at personalities in the material world who are really succeeding, and you see how much they do and how much they go the extra mile, whether it's for their business or for something they're trying to retain or some kind of a sporting feat. And as devotees, I think we should always keep in mind that, if we want to get to that perfection stage which you were talking about, we have to be on the same level as that. So we have to be willing to go that extra mile.
I love it.
We have to be willing to get up that extra hour in the morning, to do that extra service, to chant more rounds, to read Prabhupada's books, and if we have that mentality of always going that little bit extra and keeping in mind that what we put in is what we get out, we're going to be successful in spiritual life. So it's very, very dangerous to be complacent in our spiritual life. And just on the potency of chanting Hare Krishna, you also touched on that and how fortunate we are. And it states that chanting Hare Krishna is the highest glorification of God, which is a really beautiful thing. And chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the only way for spiritual advancement in this age of Kali. It's so powerful, and we're so fortunate.
Yeah. Prabhu, I love that. I love your comments. And, you know, especially thinking about what non-devotees do to move forward for some temporary benefit. Yeah. You know, if we could just pick up on some of that enthusiasm and dedication and, you know, for the greatest benefit of all, eternal life, we just got to keep that in mind. And you see, that's why we have classes. And that's why we have readings, and that's why we read. Read. I can't stop reading, which is one of the great benefits now in my old age, because I was always running around the planet and running around the continent, like for years and years. But now I can read, and I'm gobsmacked by what I'm reading. Like, actually, it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm absorbing it more now. But read, please read. Find time to read. So many wonderful instructions and realizations of the acharyas. It's let's really do it. Let's do it. That's a sloka, isn't it? Let's do it.
The reading and hearing is so important. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Prabhupada's spiritual master, he said that you actually see God through your ears. So the more you're reading, the more you're hearing about Krishna, that gives you the vision to see God. So it's so important, this hearing, so important. So
I love that.
I know, KK's here, like KK, he's always listening to the classes, to lectures, stories about Krishna.
Yes.
And the more you listen, it just penetrates the mind. And then eventually you have the ears to see God.
I'm so fired up. Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Prabhu. I love it. I really do. Okay.
Can I add something very quickly? Sorry. On the materialistic sort of viewpoint of that striving, my Gurudev was saying something that really stuck with me. Is like, you know, he went through university and it was Yale University, so it was very high education, a lot of study. And what he tells himself is like, if I could put that many sleepless nights, like that much energy and effort into my material endeavors, I have to do more in my spiritual endeavors. Mm-hmm. So I try to keep that in mind.
Nice, yeah, for eternal benefit, not some temporary benefit, which isn't it? This is eternal benefit, so that's more important. Yeah, good point, very good point. Anybody else like to say anything, or shall we finish here? It's just 1 minute to 8:30.
I'll add to just to reverberate what Srila Prabhupada said that in 1967 lecture, that everybody wants to see God. And he just said, just hear and be with Krishna.
Just hear?
And be with Krishna.
Wow, nice.
Everybody wants to see God. He says,
yes.
Hear and be with Krishna.
Yes,
so
yes.
All things about. The other thing is on this Trinadapi Shinu that one of Prabhupada's senior disciples, you might find this interesting. Srila Prabhupada had this verse, in relation to Lord Chaitanya. Why did Lord Chaitanya, because he's the Supreme Personality of God, why would he say that himself? And Prabhupada paused for a moment and he got a very interesting answer. And he said, because, this is Lord Chaitanya, because you realise there's 1/10,000 people there.
Wow.
And Bhakti-avatar.
Yeah. Good thought to keep in mind. Yeah. Okay. Right, well, all glory to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. And thank you all for coming and listening so nicely.